Today is Wednesday, the 17th of December 2025, and this is papertrail.com, a daily streaming all about governance, risk, and compliance in the UK for SME and mid-market firms. So far this week, we've covered the scale of the UK compliance, which is around 8,000 and a half to 16,000 pages of guidance. So you can imagine this is quite a big requirement in terms of guidance. And also we covered the duplication yesterday. That's when teams organized by frameworks, but they have to handle around 5,000 to 5,000 and a half listed obligations. But they are all the same policies, training records and logs, and they're recreated multiple times, often by different departments. But if done well, probably is boiled down to 800 to 1,000 requirements by their business profile. Remember that you have all the regulations, your business profile, and then you boil it down to what is the requirement to you, which are your controls, and then your evidence. So today we are going to look at what is breaking next in this process, which is overlapping, right? So you have duplications, so things are done in parallel, and then you have overlapping, so things are doing the same people or different people for the same things. So three most common problems here is that after consolidation, meaning that actually from these 5,000 something obligations down to whatever is required based on your business profile, UK SMEs and mid-market firms still face around these 800 to 1,000 active compliance obligations, and each requiring accountability. And this is a problem, accountability. Number two is that most SMEs and mid-market firms have far fewer realistic owners. So boards, managing directors, CEOs, CFOs, and COOs, or whatever is equivalent in your organization, often carrying anything between 12 to 16 overlapping responsibilities across regulatory regimes, right? So you have your obligations, but at the same time is different people that have the same similar responsibilities for different frameworks or obligations, which is an overlap. And when we say overlap, we're going to explain this later on. And the problem number three is when obligations are spread across frameworks, right? Ownership becomes shared or assumed. That's what is happening in the overlap, or undocumented, which is very, very bad in terms of regulator requirements, even though regulators expect named accountability because they want to see who owns what, right? So you can imagine this in this way. So you are a captain or you are a crew member in a ship in a cabin where everything is happening with hundreds of instruments in front of you, but there is no one clearly assigned to the rudder. So that's a big problem because actually you can have all the controls, you can have everybody's touching something, but who is driving the ship, or in this case, the framework? So here are 3 points to consider for compliance with ownership in your company. So the UK regulator, again, consistently emphasizes accountability, not just activity. So number one, and I'm going to mention 2 frames here. Number one, under the UK GDPR, the Information Commissioner's Office expects a clear responsibility for compliance decisions. Solution number 2, another framework, is under the health and safety law. Duty holders must be identifiable, not collective or implied. So have to have a name and a surname attached to it. And solution number 3, ownership must sit at the obligation level, not hidden inside the framework document. So, oh yeah, this is in somebody's inbox or a binder, like all these binders I have behind me. No, have to be name and surname attached to each of these obligations levels. As you can see, I mentioned only 2 here, but there are layers of complexity in terms of overlapping because it's start to get complicated, particularly for SMEs and mid-market companies where there are no dedicated teams, officials, or personnel within the company to run these compliance requirements. And we mentioned only 2 out of the 16 frameworks required of any UK company. We mentioned GDPR and health and safety, but then you have fire safety and DVCA for if you're managing fleet, or cyber essentials, or PCR, or EPR. So there are many acronyms. Then you have the financial authority anyway. So no wonder 73% of UK companies outsource and hire consultants, advisors, or delegate to contractors, according to the PwC report issued this year. So if you are going to outsource all these responsibilities, but by the way, you can outsource the managing of these things, of the frameworks, or the organization of the frameworks, of what to do, when, and how, but you cannot outsource the responsibility, which is your name and surname attached to those frameworks and obligations. So, as I always mention in these live streams, that you and your company should have a compliance baseline, or at least a baseline in mind, so you can hire on your own terms, right? So 3 suggestions when outsourcing these requirements, particularly when you want compliance with an ownership in your company. When you're outsourcing or looking to outsource, look for these. The first is what the outcome that they offer to you. Do they assign ownership after consolidation? So not before. So each obligation has a single accountable owner, and that will make you compliant. Number 2, differentiator. Do owners see exactly what they are responsible for, regardless of how many frameworks the obligation supports? Meaning that actually you start to stop the overlapping. Having an owner is not going to make you compliant by default. It's part of the requirements, by the way. And number 3 is how they help you to reduce your risk. Do they provide to the leadership team with a clear gains? I mean, a real-time view of accountability without chasing people or spreadsheets, right? In other words, do they provide a dashboard that actually makes sense? So one action that you can take today to test this is pick one compliance obligation and write down the single person who is accountable for it, not the department, the person. If you cannot make this exercise in 10 minutes or less, you probably need to consider another solution. Something that is faster, that is more reliable, and is an easier way to do things. And that's why we build our software from the ground up. It's called Paper Trail. So if you want clear accountability without micromanaging everybody and everything, join the Paper Trail waitlist. So what it does, so you can stop activities that increase workload, but add no value to your organization, increasing costs and labor hours and expenses in just redundant work, overlapping, for example. This is perfect for the UK SMEs and mid-market firms because you use the same control library for health and safety, GDPR, DVCA, cyber essentials, EPR. There is no double entry. That's reducing the overlap by 60% and your costs by 80%. It's all in one place. It's a continuous gap analysis. It's a clear view of what's done, what is missing, and who owns and who is accountable, who is responsible for do things or fix things before assurance, inspections, and reports or audits hit you. So do it once, do it properly, and move on to the things that are more important to you, which is grow your company or your department and be more profitable. So join the waitlist, papertrail.com, and stay tuned because yesterday, as we mentioned, we exposed duplication. Today, we expose ownership gaps. And tomorrow, I will show you why evidence becomes the bottlenecks once ownership is unclear. So if you don't have a clear owner, evidence is a bottleneck. And remember that evidence is the best defensible position in front of audits, notices, inspections, etc., etc.